Do I tell investors about my mental health challenges? I don't really have a plan for this video. I thought I'd just freestyle it and share openly and transparently like I always try to do. But this is a topic that comes up for me quite often, especially when I start to struggle with my mental health. I wonder to myself, should I be open and transparent equally with investors? How far do I go? What's appropriate? What's not? I start to feel a little insecure, and then I usually get through it on the other side. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang, seven-time founder with two X's. That's just a fancy way of saying I failed a bunch of times, and that's to your benefit because I like to use videos like this to be open and transparent like I'm going to be in this video so that you can avoid some of the catastrophic mistakes that I've made. Not to say you won't make mistakes, but I'm going to try and minimize the damage because I have had a lot of experience with investors, fellow founders, other advisors, you name it. And I hope this type of content is useful for you. If you do appreciate it, please like, comment, subscribe. I'd love your feedback. I'd love to know what you think. Let's get back to this topic. Let me start off with my mental health challenges. I am neurodivergent, which is sort of the politically correct blanket statement of saying there are issues with my brain. I just don't function the same way that neurotypical people do. It's something I didn't realize I had till really later on in my life when I began working with an executive coach that specialized in the neuroscience of high performance. And I began learning about emotional intelligence and literally found out that there are parts of my brain that have been shut off because of trauma growing up. Now, to add to the mix, I am a double introvert. What's a double introvert, you ask? If you look up introversion, there are, I think, 4 different types of introversion dimensions, and I tick off 2 of them. If you want to go deeper into the psychology in terms of attachment styles, I have an avoidant attachment style, which contributes to my introversion. The difference between introversion and extroversion is that extroverts get energy from social relationships, get energy from social situations, interacting with people. Introverts are the opposite. Introverts lose energy, and that's me. Every time I interact with people, I lose energy. I can't stand public speaking, even though I do it very well. And a lot of people ask me to do public speaking. I don't like to do public speaking for the main reason that I have to be in front of a crowd. And after you're done talking, people want to come talk to you. And usually when I do some type of public speaking or I do a workshop and there's a lot of people there, I'll show up for a dinner. I'll leave early. Every event, social event that I go to, I leave early. And sometimes it's jarring and sometimes people have taken offense with me until I explain to them this is how I normally have to recharge because it takes so much energy for me to deliver anything that has to do with social interactions with large groups of people. Now it gets even worse for me because after I came back from China, I left in 2019. It was December when everything was starting. I got locked down and I was here in my home the entire time. I went from being surrounded by thousands of people every single day, and I was used to those crowds, at least managing my introversion, managing energy, and making sure that I was taking care of myself. And then because of the lockdown, I didn't have that exposure anymore, and I began to develop social anxiety and panic attacks. The first time I had a full-blown panic attack, and I knew this was a serious problem, was going to the Apple store right after they were lifting the lockdown. Everybody was wearing a mask, and I had to make an appointment and stand in the middle of the Apple store with all these people around me. And it was stuffy. I was having a hard time breathing. I was hot. And I was waiting for a customer service representative to come and talk to me. But I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And I don't blame the Apple store because the place was so busy. It was absolutely packed. It was like everybody wanted to go and buy their Apple products after they lifted the lockdown. I found myself having difficulty breathing, began hyperventilating to the point where I had to run out of the Apple store and I crumpled down on the bench and I bawled my eyeballs out for about 10 minutes. Everybody's looking at me like I was having a full-blown seizure or something, very concerned. And I kept telling everybody, I'm okay, I'll be fine, leave me alone, it's all right. It was embarrassing, I was ashamed, but I was also very concerned because I'd never experienced something like that before. Then fast forward, I had another panic attack in front of my family. I was driving a van, my sister-in-law's van, and I wasn't used to it. We were in a crowded parking lot. My entire family was hitting me up with requests, and I was thinking about all these things. I was in an unknown situation, and I parked the car, and I ran out, and I ended up crumpling into a fetal position right on the sidewalk, right on the curb. And I sat there trying to breathe, get a hold of myself. And I was embarrassed once again as my family looked on with horror going, what is going on with dad? And my wife's thinking, what is going on with my husband? And these panic attacks arising from social anxiety have come up over and over again. I can't even go shopping. I can't go to Costco without experiencing it. Now it has gotten better. I have been able to go to Costco. I have been able to go to crowded places. But if a few things set me off, then I swirl really quickly. And I've been in some embarrassing situations, and I literally had to run away from everyone else before I caused them panic and made them feel bad because I was having a full-blown anxious panic attack. Now let's add one more wrinkle to the whole thing, which is pertinent to this conversation. I have something called synesthesia. This is a word, I'm going to put it on the screen for you to know, where your senses get mixed up. Some people, when they hear music, they see colors. Some people, when they read letters, they see colors or hear music. That's when your senses get crisscrossed. I happen to have a form where if I'm taking in information, I see it in geometric shapes, patterns, and frameworks. I don't know how I got this, whether I got this from trauma growing up, but it explains so much in what happened to me during school and the reason that I failed in certain subjects and excelled in other ones. It's another reason I got really good at 3D animation and modeling things in 3D. I'm a spatial thinker. And every startup that I'm involved with as a co-founder, you will see some type of geometric framework that explains our business model, strategy, or the product in a way that is quite different. And a lot of people like it. And I've leaned into it and I've said, I need to monetize this. Back to investors. What do I tell them? I'm very upfront with investors of how neurodivergent I am. I will let them know I'm a double introvert, and I'll let them know ahead of time if you want me to come to an event or I'm going to be in a social situation, I may duck out because I need that silence and darkness time that my colleagues affectionately refer to. And it's fantastic. I have some of the most supportive colleagues ever, and they acknowledge that I have this neurodivergence and also these mental health issues, these struggles that I have that could flare up anywhere at any point in time. But when it comes to investors, I'll explain my neurodivergence, but I won't make it a liability. So I won't explain to them upfront that I have panic attacks or I've got social anxiety, because I don't need to plant that seed of doubt. And therefore, I need to be very careful about managing myself and making sure I'm in the right place at the right time with the right people, and I don't end up becoming a liability to our startup because of my mental health challenges. It's not to say that I'm so ashamed that I won't talk about it. If it ever comes up, I talk about it openly and freely because I've reconciled myself and I've been able to handle the self-concept and the self-esteem that goes with having mental health challenges such as anxiety or panic attacks. But I never call attention to it. And I especially don't want anybody to treat me differently. And there's no way I feel entitled expecting people to treat me differently because I'm neurodivergent or have these mental health challenges. I guess what it boils down to is that I like to use my emotional intelligence skills and all my social skills to make sure I'm being appropriate and I'm communicating. Because sometimes when I've communicated my struggles, I've actually connected more with investors. I have investors that we share our mental health challenges freely and openly, and we help each other and support each other. And that's created a much deeper bond than I experienced with other investors. But I don't go waving around like a flag in public. And I think that's an individual choice that you as a founder, you have to make when working with any investor or employee, co-founder, teammate, customer, you name it. I think you have to make that choice for yourself. And you have to be authentic and true to who you are without creating the liability for your startup. As I come to the end of this, my final encouragement to you is that if you are a founder out there and you are struggling with mental health challenges, it's okay. I do too. You are not alone. There are relationships that you should have that you feel safe to be strong and to be weak in. This is something that I call joy effects. It's my investment thesis. Never be ashamed of how you deal with your mental health or your neurodivergence if you're like me, but you must take responsibility for it. I know way too many individuals that end up blaming psychology, or they make it a part of their identity where it becomes a distraction. And if I really believe in my startup and I want to do the best job possible as a founder, I'm going to make it about my startup. I'm going to make it about my customers and solving their problems and creating the best user experience, not about me. The spotlight should not be on me. It should be on my startup and on my customers. I think that's what investors are really looking for. And if you do that and you run into some mental health challenges along the way and they find out, I think they're going to be totally okay with it because you are generating the results that they are looking for. And if you ever get to the point where you can share openly with investors, more power to you, because chances are they're struggling or they know other founders or other people in their lives who are struggling as well. So be courageous with it all. Thanks for letting me get a little raw and real with this one. I put some videos up on the screen that I'd love for you to check out. Other types of content like this. Like I said in the beginning, I'd love to know what you think. Leave a comment. Let me know what you're dealing with, and let's support each other, and let's become a community that helps each other as founders, because it's tough enough as it is. Thanks for listening and spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next video.